What's up, freaks? This is just me, and today we're gonna be ranking the 8 mandatory poses of Kai the Predator Greene from worst to best. And we're gonna be considering the poses throughout the bodybuilder's whole career, meaning being consistently good in the pose is also a factor as to where I'm gonna place it. Kai Greene is a bodybuilder who competed in the late 2000s and early and mid 2010s and unfortunately doesn't anymore, although I think he could based on what he has been looking like lately. He won 3 Arnold Classic titles and is a 2-time Olympia runner-up. His physique is among the most impressive of all time. I would say the top 10, especially his peaky biceps, super low lats, his striated quads, and the lower body as a whole really make him an amazing bodybuilder and stand out on stage. So, let's start off with his worst mandatory pose. That, in my opinion, is the most muscular pose. If you know Kai well, you're gonna know already how hit or miss he was in this pose. Sometimes he looked more than decent, like in the picture on the left, but at other times he looked straight up quite bad in it, with all due respect to the competitor. Especially the crab most muscular looked very bad at times. Usually the hands clasped and hand on hip definitely looked a little better. Either way, Guy's lower body always looked good, but his arms look flat from this angle, with the biceps bulging out kind of weirdly, the triceps nearly disappearing. Guy's shoulders were never one of his trademark strong body parts. They don't look very good. They look quite undersized in the crab most muscular, and he just doesn't look very impressive in this pose. It's not a great pose for him at all, even though he's still got his great lower body. And another weaker pose, like triceps. Even though I wouldn't call this a weak pose, he still looks quite good in it. He could beat some other competitors for sure, unlike in the crab most muscular if he hits that pose. Anyway, he doesn't look bad whatsoever in this pose. His side leg looks very good. The quad is very separated. He doesn't have the smallest midsection, but he keeps it in check in this pose and looks fine. His chest and delts look fairly decent, but his triceps isn't the best genetically speaking. You can see how sort of thin, small his horseshoe is genetically speaking. But anyway, it's nicely feathered, but that doesn't quite make up for the lack of sort of the meat there. So, with all due respect, I don't think the triceps is strong enough to propel this pose higher up on my list, but it's still not a weak one. He looks quite good in it. I would even say quite aesthetic, for instance, on the left. Sixth place goes to Guy's back lat spread. He looks quite odd in this pose. Despite having crazy low hanging lats and a world-class Ronnie Coleman level lower body, you can just see that it's incredible. He's got great hamstrings, amazing, incredible glutes, amazing sweeps of the quadriceps. His lower body looks crazy. Definitely one of the best lower bodies of all time. I would say among the top 5 for sure, easily. And as I said, his lat flare is crazy, but the torso, it looks way too short. The waist looks kind of wide because of the lat inserts. Also, the traps are one of Guy's notoriously weakest body parts, so they lack detail. His back looks really washed out in this pose. So despite the insane legs and glutes, it's not the strongest mandatory for the Predator either, but his width is still on another level. So he looks actually quite good still in this pose. In fifth, I put the ab and thigh, in which the Predator deserves credit in my opinion, because despite being a freaky thickly built, basically mass monster. He looks really good in this more aesthetically oriented pose, if you will. He hits the side version time to time, but he also does the classic ab and thigh, and his waist was never that tiny, and he looks quite blocky in the front version, but he's got amazing lats. Not necessarily the most standout lats that shot out, but he's got very thick lats, and you can clearly see that. So his V-taper isn't terrible, and he's got pretty deeply cut abs when he's flexing them, and a decently symmetrical six pack, not bad at all in the upper body. And the lower body, we'll know about Kai's quads and the feathering. They're super massive, but the quads also look aesthetic at the same time. He does a great job executing this pose. And moving on to the mandatories that were really dominant for Kai. Fourth, I put the side chest, and this pose is slightly controversial, I feel. Some of you might want to put it last, and some of you might want to put it first, I imagine. It depends on personal preference whether you are willing to overlook the midsection that looks really big in this pose, if we are being truthful. It's partially due to Kai's posing style, which to my eyes is far from ideal in this pose, even though he is a master poser. He's got his glutes too dominant already, and he even lifts them up more and scrunches the upper body down, turns away, which I think is not a great display for the pecs. They still look monstrously giant though. So does the side leg, the glute, the quad, the calf, all of them are amazing. So he's just a real beast in this pose. So thick, but his symmetry, proportions, and aesthetics are pretty much non-existent. So I think it's only fair to go with the mediocre placing for this pose, like fourth. I don't personally like Guy's side chest too much, but I can't deny he is so thickly developed, right? Third is an improvement, in my opinion, a very artistic execution in the front double biceps pose. He is a master in posing, in fact. He does incredible routines. It's just the side chest that I feel he doesn't nail. He does nail this pose incredibly, hiding his wider waist and minor biceps asymmetry by doing this little tilt, at the same time making himself look very relaxed and very artistic too. I love this execution. Let me know if you would prefer if all the nowadays bodybuilders did it. I I think I certainly would prefer them to do a little tilt like guys doing in the middle. Anyway, Guy's lower body looks awesome, as always. His midsection is in check in most instances, apart from a few, like we can see for instance on the right. He's got the bat wing like lats, really low, but his V shape still looks really good. And of course, he's got his biceps. True, his arms are super out of balance with the underdeveloped forearms and triceps, not coming close to his biceps peaks, but the arms look so freaky, it ain't really matter that they lack balance. He still looks very freakish in this pose. Up in second place, I have the front lat spread. You could argue it should be third, but I think Guy's lower body has a better display in this pose, and he looks way better overall as I see it. You can see the crazy sweep in the quads and the faint feathers. His abs look fairly good, and the chest looks pretty good as well. The arms still look quite good in this pose as well, but they're not overly dominant. They actually look quite small compared to how they looked in the front double biceps. But in this pose, I actually like the look of his arms. At least they're not too dominant, so they would hide his lats. Anyway, his lats look very wide and balloonish, and what really helps Kai in this pose is his shoulder width, of course. The structure looks good. The V-taper is quite crazy on the guy. I might be a little biased because I love Kai's lat spreads aesthetically, and I'm a big fan of this, but I believe there's no doubt this is a top 3 pose for Kai Greene. He just has that coveted X frame that not a whole lot of bodybuilders can display to this extent. But first, I think no surprise here, I'm putting the back double biceps. Probably Kai's most notorious bodybuilding pose, but still, of course, also famous for being one of the best. Despite him definitely being flawed, I personally believe it's his most effective mandatory in competition as well. The Predator's weaknesses are forearms, traps, and to a lesser extent shoulders, which are not as apparent in this pose, I don't think. His traps don't really hurt him that much because of the lats making up for them. These gotta be the thickest lat insertions ever, I swear. Lower and middle back looks quite crazy, and Kai's got impressive width and V-taper too. He looks great when he's not holding a film of water in his back. His weaker forearms, you can notice them, but your eye is also going to be drawn to those bicep peaks, which are among the most impressive, eye-catching of all time, and eye-catching could also be used to describe his lower body. Again, as I said in the previous back pose, look at those big diced glutes. The quad sweeps are unreal, hamstrings that resemble wires coming down his legs, and he's even got pretty freaky calves. So he is one of the freakiest true doubles for sure, although not the most complete, not the most aesthetic. It works really well, and the X frame looks quite good too. So let me know whether you agree with my ranking by writing a comment into the comment section below. I would love to know because I think this order of the poses might obviously vary based on who's ranking them, right? So I would love to know what you think about the mandatory poses of Kai Greene and about his physique. Be sure to let me know. I would highly appreciate that. I love when someone comments on my videos. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to watch some Kai Greene videos and also like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.